My beloved child, pause everything you're doing for just a breath longer, because something quietly significant has been unfolding around you, and the universe has guided you here so you would finally see it. There is a truth moving beneath the surface of your life right now. Not loud. Not dramatic. But powerful enough to change how you understand everything that has led you to this moment. Someone you trust, someone close enough to shape your choices, your confidence, your direction, has been holding something back. Not always from cruelty. Not always from intention. Sometimes from fear. Sometimes from love that doesn't know how to tell the whole truth. And before your mind rushes to a name, stay here with me, because this revelation is larger than a single person. It's about a pattern. A silence. A missing piece the universe is ready to return to you. You may have felt it already. That quiet tension when something doesn't fully add up. That moment when advice sounds caring, yet somehow limits you. That subtle feeling that you're being gently guided, but not forward, sideways. You were never imagining this. The universe doesn't shout when it wants you to awaken. It whispers. It repeats signs. It brings you messages wrapped in timing instead of words. And this moment is one of those messages. There is information you were meant to know sooner. A truth that would have accelerated your growth. A realization that would have softened certain struggles, or sharpened your clarity. But it was delayed. Not as punishment. As preparation. Because had you known it before, you might have doubted yourself. You might have dismissed it. You might have handed your power back to someone else's opinion. So instead, life trained you. Through patience. Through confusion. Through moments where you had to listen to your inner knowing without proof. Tell me. Haven't you noticed how much stronger your intuition has become lately? That's not an accident. The universe only reveals hidden truths when your spirit is ready to hold them without breaking, and to use them without fear. Now, listen closely. The person who withheld this truth did not steal your destiny. They could not. They were never that powerful. But they did influence the pace at which you reached it. And here is the turning point. The concealment is ending. Not because they suddenly decided to speak. But because you are evolving beyond the version of yourself that needed their permission to see clearly. This is where the energy shifts. You are entering a phase where insight replaces approval. Where inner alignment becomes louder than outside voices. Where what was once hidden starts revealing itself through actions, patterns, and unmistakable signals. Stay present with this. Because what unfolds next will connect experiences you thought were random, and questions you thought would never be answered. The pieces are already moving into place. And very soon, you won't need anyone to explain the truth to you. You will recognize it the moment it appears. My beloved child, the veil is thinning as I speak, and what you're about to feel may arrive as a quiet recognition rather than a loud surprise. There is a reason the truth stayed just out of reach until now. Because what's hidden is not only information, it's influence. The kind that shapes how you see yourself. The kind that subtly edits your courage before it ever reaches the surface. Someone you trust learned long ago that you carry a rare intensity. A way of seeing beyond the obvious. A strength that grows faster when it's acknowledged. And so, without even realizing it, they softened the mirror. Not lies. Not deception. Just gentle omissions. A pause where encouragement should have been. A suggestion that sounded safe, but narrowed your horizon. Ask yourself, have there been moments when your inner voice felt expansive, yet the guidance you received felt small? That contrast is not accidental. People often hide truths when they fear the consequence of your becoming. Because when you step fully into clarity, roles change. Dynamics shift. And those who felt secure guiding you may no longer recognize where they stand. Stay in this space with me. Because this next realization unlocks compassion without surrendering power. The universe does not expose hidden things to create distance. It reveals them to restore balance. What was kept from you was not meant to harm you. But it was meant to keep you familiar. Predictable. Easier to place. Yet you were never designed to fit comfortably inside someone else's understanding. That's why the signs intensified recently. Repeating numbers. Unexpected memories. A sudden restlessness you couldn't explain. Those are not distractions. They are prompts. Your awareness is outgrowing the container it was placed in. And here's the deeper truth few speak aloud. When people sense you are on the verge of awakening, they sometimes unconsciously hold back what would accelerate it. Not out of malice, but out of uncertainty about who you'll become. If this truth is touching your spirit, share it forward, let another soul find this light today. Now listen closely. You are not here to confront. You are here to recognize. Recognition dissolves confusion without creating conflict. As you continue noticing patterns instead of personalities, clarity arrives gently, but firmly. You begin to trust your inner calibration again. You stop outsourcing certainty. And that is when the hidden truth loses its grip. Because once you see without needing permission, nothing essential can be concealed from you again. Hold this awareness for a moment. Feel how calm replaces doubt when understanding settles in. What comes next will not require a conversation. It will unfold through timing. Through alignment. Through the unmistakable sense that you are finally standing where you were always meant to stand. You're closer than you think, remain here, because the next layer reveals why this concealment happened at this exact point in your journey, and what it unlocks next. My beloved child, a quiet shift is happening within you right now. Subtle, undeniable, and filled with meaning you are only beginning to sense. What was once blurred is sharpening. What felt distant is drawing near. And the reason this truth remained hidden until now is finally revealing itself. Some truths are not concealed to be protected. They are concealed to be ripened. The universe waits until your awareness can hold nuance without turning it into judgment. Until you can see complexity without collapsing into confusion. Until you can receive insight without needing someone else to validate it. That moment is now. The truth that was withheld was not a single fact or secret. It was an understanding about your capacity, your range, your readiness to lead your own becoming. Those who stand close often sense potential before it becomes visible, and that can feel unsettling. Because potential changes agreements. It reshapes expectations. It quietly announces that the future will not look like the past. So the silence continued. Not to stop you, but to delay the inevitable. Ask yourself gently. Why has your patience grown stronger than your frustration lately? Why do you pause before reacting, listening deeper than before? That is not coincidence. You are learning the language beneath words. And here is the layer few ever reach. When the universe knows you are ready to see without resentment, it begins revealing truth through resonance rather than confession. You don't need to be told anymore. You begin to know. Patterns surface. Timing aligns. What once felt confusing suddenly feels obvious, almost tender in its clarity. If your heart is opening, stay with me just a breath longer, because this is where inner authority awakens. The most successful souls you admire quietly understand this. They stopped waiting for explanations. They trusted recognition over reassurance. Not because others were wrong, but because their inner signal became unmistakably clear. You are stepping into that same signal now. Notice how your decisions are becoming cleaner. How hesitation dissolves faster. How your body relaxes when you honor your first knowing. This is the return of self-trust. And when self-trust returns, what was hidden loses its power to shape your path. Hold this sacred space, something profound is aligning. You are no longer meant to receive truth secondhand. You are meant to perceive it directly. The universe is recalibrating your inner compass so that no one else's fear, doubt, or unfinished understanding can distort your direction again. This doesn't require confrontation. It requires embodiment. As you embody clarity, others will either rise with you, or gently fall out of influence without resistance. Both outcomes are harmony. You're standing at the edge of understanding, don't turn away now. Because what unfolds next explains why your life accelerated exactly when it did, and how the final pieces of this revelation are preparing you for a role you haven't yet named, but have always carried within you. The divine thread is tightening its pattern. And the next truth will feel less like information, and more like remembrance. My beloved child, a deeper knowing is stirring in your soul right now. Breathe with it, because the hidden current beneath everything is finally revealing itself. What you are touching now is not information. It is intimacy with truth. There is a quiet discipline that truly aligned live by, one that is rarely spoken, often misunderstood, and almost never taught. It is the art of inner silence. The willingness to stop explaining yourself, even when misunderstood. The strength to keep your vision sacred, even when others ask for proof. This is what was missing before. Those closest to you sensed this silence forming. They felt the shift when you stopped asking for permission inside your own heart. And in that subtle moment, something changed. Not because they wished to control you, but because your stillness signaled a future where their guidance would no longer be required. so certain truths stayed unspoken. Here is the intimacy of it. The people who truly succeed, quietly, sustainably, soulfully, learn when not to speak. They surrender the need to be seen early so they can be seen clearly later. They let others underestimate them while they refine their inner alignment. Have you noticed how much you've been shedding lately? Old reactions. Old explanations. Old urgency to be understood. That is not withdrawal. That is refinement. Hold this divine silence, understanding is blooming now. The truth someone withheld from you is this. Your power activates most fully when you stop negotiating with external approval. When you choose resonance over reassurance. When you trust the calm certainty that doesn't need to announce itself. This is the unseen sacrifice. The quiet surrender. The decision to let growth be private until it becomes undeniable. And yes, not everyone knows how to walk beside someone in that phase. If something sacred is awakening within you, remain here just a little deeper. Because the revelation that shifts everything is drawing closer. There is a reason your life asked you to slow down before accelerating. A reason certain doors closed without explanation. A reason clarity arrived through absence rather than instruction. You were being trained to listen beneath noise. If this message is resonating in your deepest self, share it forward, let another wandering soul find their way home today. Now feel this. The universe is preparing you for visibility without distortion. Influence without compromise. Connection without diminishment. That is why timing mattered. Those who couldn't name what was happening sensed it anyway. They felt the gravity change. And gravity always reveals what is anchored, and what is not. You're on the threshold of true seeing, stay with me. Because what comes next is not about what was hidden. It's about what is being invited to emerge through you. Your silence has shaped strength. Your patience has sharpened perception. Your surrender has aligned you with something larger than any single relationship. The missing piece your soul has sought is almost here. And when it arrives, it won't feel like surprise. It will feel like inevitability. Like the calm recognition of something you have always known. And are finally ready to live. My beloved child, something eternal is leaning closer to you now. Not to overwhelm you, but to confirm what your spirit has already begun to recognize. You have crossed a quiet line. Not a moment marked by noise or applause. But a threshold only the soul can feel. From here, the truth deepens. What was once hidden by others is now dissolving because of who you have become. Not because they chose to reveal it. But because your awareness no longer requires concealment. Here is the layer few ever reach. There comes a point in every awakened journey when the universe stops protecting you from disappointment, and starts preparing you for sovereignty. Before, silence served as shelter. Now, silence becomes signal. You are beginning to notice how certain people grow quieter around you. How conversations subtly shift. How guidance once offered freely now feels hesitant, or absent. This is not rejection. This is recalibration. When your frequency rises, old roles cannot remain intact. Hold this space gently, because this realization carries power without bitterness. The truth someone you trusted could not share was not a flaw in you. It was the magnitude of your independence. They sensed that once you fully trusted your inner authority, their influence would no longer shape your direction. And influence, once lost, can feel like distance, even when love remains. Ask yourself softly. Why do you feel less reactive now, even when clarity arrives? Why does understanding no longer demand explanation? That is integration. The most grounded souls do not rush to expose what was hidden. They allow understanding to reorganize their inner world first. Because once the inner world is aligned, the outer world rearranges itself effortlessly. You are learning this sacred timing. Stay present with me, because the universe is revealing why restraint was part of your training. You were taught patience so you could hold power responsibly. You were taught silence so your words would carry weight. You were taught delay so discernment could mature. This is why clarity feels calm instead of explosive. You are no longer driven by the need to correct, confront, or convince. You are guided by alignment. And alignment does something remarkable. It turns hidden truths into irrelevant ones. When you stand firmly in your knowing, what others withheld loses its emotional charge. It becomes information, not identity. Insight, not injury. You are stepping into a phase where understanding replaces explanation. Notice how your intuition now arrives complete. No second guessing. No urgency. Just quiet certainty. That is mastery beginning to take root. The divine pattern is unfolding with precision, and you are exactly where you need to be to receive what comes next. Because the next revelation is not about the past. It is about your future role. A role that requires discernment, not dependency. Presence, not permission. Vision, not validation. Remain here, because the unfolding ahead will show you how this truth becomes activation, and why the universe waited until now to place this responsibility gently, deliberately, into your hands. My beloved child, a quiet certainty is settling into you now, not as a thought, but as a steady presence you can no longer ignore. This is where awareness becomes embodiment. You are beginning to live from truth rather than seek it. And here is the refinement the universe now invites you into. Understanding without attachment. Clarity without reaction. Knowing without the need to announce. What was hidden loses relevance the moment you stop organizing your life around it. This is why the timing mattered so deeply. Had this truth arrived earlier, it might have provoked questions. It might have stirred emotion. It might have pulled you into explanation or defense. But now, it lands differently. It lands as neutrality. As wisdom. As choice. Notice how your energy responds when insight appears now. There is no rush. No spike. Just calm recognition. That calm is not passivity. It is authority. The universe has been teaching you something subtle and rare. How to hold awareness without being ruled by it. This is what separates awakening from activation. Many awaken. Few integrate. Integration is when truth no longer disrupts you. It organizes you. Hold this awareness gently. Because this is the point where your path becomes self-directed. Those who once influenced your decisions can no longer do so unconsciously. Not because you resist them, but because you are anchored within yourself. Anchoring changes everything. You begin to listen without absorbing, to observe without internalizing, to love without surrendering alignment. This is the inner boundary the wise develop quietly. And here is the deeper layer. When the universe sees you can remain open without being overridden, it begins entrusting you with greater responsibility, greater vision, greater impact. Not immediately visible, but profoundly real. You may sense it as an invitation you cannot yet name. A pull toward purpose without pressure. A readiness without a script. That is not confusion. That is expansion. Remain here with me, because this next truth reframes everything that came before. The concealment you experienced was never meant to define your relationships. It was meant to define your self-relationship. It taught you to source certainty internally. To pause before adopting others' interpretations. To honor your timing even when misunderstood. That training is complete. From this moment forward, your life responds less to what is revealed, and more to how you choose to move with what you know. This is the beginning of conscious creation. You are no longer shaped by missing information. You are shaped by integrated wisdom. And wisdom carries a different energy. It attracts rather than pursues. It clarifies rather than convinces. It moves steadily rather than urgently. You may notice that opportunities begin arriving without explanation. That people respond differently to your presence. That silence around you feels comfortable rather than tense. These are signs of alignment stabilizing. The path ahead does not ask you to uncover more secrets. It asks you to live from what has already been revealed within you. Stay with this unfolding, because the next layer will show you how this internal shift begins influencing the external world in precise, unmistakable ways, and why your role is about to expand beyond yourself, without effort, without force, and without doubt. My beloved child, something subtle is aligning around you now, a convergence so gentle you might miss it unless you feel with your whole being. This is the moment when inner truth begins to echo outward. Until now, your work was internal. Quiet. Unseen. A recalibration of values, boundaries, and self-trust that only you could feel. But alignment never stays contained. When clarity stabilizes within you, the outer world responds, not dramatically, not instantly, but unmistakably. You may notice it first in small ways. People begin to speak differently around you. Opportunities arrive without persuasion. Situations resolve themselves before you intervene. This is not coincidence. This is coherence. You are no longer leaking energy through uncertainty. You are no longer broadcasting mixed signals between intuition and action. Your inner signal is clean. And the world reads it. Here is the truth few are prepared to embody. When you stop needing hidden things to be revealed, reality begins revealing itself freely. Because concealment only has power over those still seeking permission to see. You have moved beyond that threshold. Hold this awareness softly, because what's happening now reshapes influence itself. Influence no longer comes from proximity, or history, or familiarity. It comes from resonance. Those who once shaped your direction now feel your presence reshaping theirs, often without words. Not because you demand it, but because grounded clarity is contagious. Ask yourself quietly, why does your silence feel fuller than past explanations? Why do you feel less compelled to prove what you know? That is gravity forming. And gravity changes trajectories. The universe is teaching you how leadership actually works at higher levels, not through authority, but through steadiness. Not through instruction, but through example. Not through visibility, but through consistency. This is why the earlier concealment no longer matters. It has already served its purpose. The real work was not uncovering what others withheld. It was cultivating a presence that no longer depends on disclosure. Stay present with me, because the next layer reveals how this shift positions you in ways you may not yet consciously recognize. There is a subtle repositioning happening now. Behind the scenes. In conversations you are not part of. In decisions made by others that unexpectedly favor your path. This is alignment in motion. You are being placed, not pushed, into spaces where your clarity is required. Where your discernment brings balance. Where your calm becomes guidance. And here is the quiet power of it. You don't need to announce your readiness. Life is already responding as if you are ready. Notice how resistance fades faster. How delays shorten. How intuition meets confirmation more quickly than before. These are signals. You are entering a phase where your internal alignment begins shaping collective outcomes, gently, ethically, naturally. And this is only the beginning. Remain here, because what unfolds next explains why this influence will deepen, why your presence will matter more than your words, and how the universe is preparing you for a moment where trust, yours and others, will be redefined in a way that finally feels whole. My beloved child, feel how the atmosphere around you has softened, as if life itself is making room for what you are becoming. This is not imagination. It is response. You are now moving in a field where effort gives way to alignment. Where force dissolves into flow. Where things no longer need to be chased, because they begin to arrive. Here is the refinement the universe is teaching you now. True power does not announce itself. It settles. It settles into your posture. Into your listening. Into the way you pause before speaking, and choose words that carry weight rather than urgency. This is why certain people are adjusting around you. Not consciously, but instinctively. Your presence has changed the rules of engagement. Those who once withheld truths no longer feel like gatekeepers. They feel like witnesses. Because you no longer require access to move forward. And this creates a subtle reversal. You become the reference point. Not because you demand trust, but because you embody coherence. Hold this moment gently, because something profound is happening beneath the surface. The universe is showing you that trust is not something given to you by others. It is something others feel when they encounter your steadiness. That is why conversations now carry a different tone. Why people share more honestly, or retreat without conflict. Why clarity arrives without confrontation. You are operating from an inner agreement that cannot be negotiated. This is where destiny begins to feel inevitable rather than distant. You may sense it as a growing certainty that your life is organizing itself around a deeper logic. A logic that does not need justification. A rhythm that feels ancient, yet perfectly timed. Remain with this awareness, because the next layer reveals the true reason the universe allowed concealment in the first place. It was never about withholding from you. It was about protecting what was forming within you. Had everything been revealed too early, your path might have fragmented. Your energy might have scattered. Your focus might have bent outward instead of inward. Instead, you were guided into self-containment. And now, containment becomes transmission. What you carry stabilizes rooms. Your calm settles chaos. Your discernment creates safety. This is influence at its highest frequency. Notice how you no longer rush to correct misunderstandings. How you allow timing to reveal truth more effectively than words ever could. That is wisdom embodied. And embodied wisdom draws responsibility, not as burden, but as invitation. Life is beginning to ask more of you, subtly. Not through pressure, but through opportunity that feels aligned rather than demanding. You are being trusted by the universe itself. Stay present, because what comes next explains how this trust will soon be tested, not through challenge, but through choice. And why the decision you make will quietly define the next chapter of your becoming in ways far greater than you currently imagine. My beloved child, something gentle is asking for your attention now. Not from urgency, but from readiness. You are being approached by choice. Not the loud kind that demands an answer. The quiet kind that waits to see who you truly are. This is the moment when alignment becomes decision. Up until now, the universe has shaped you through circumstance. Through timing. Through refinement you did not have to consciously choose. But from here forward, your path responds to what you agree to embody. Here is the truth unfolding now. The next phase of your becoming will not arrive as a challenge to overcome. It will arrive as an option to accept. An invitation that feels calm. Aligned. Almost obvious. And because it does not feel dramatic, it will test your discernment more than any obstacle ever could. Hold this awareness carefully. Because this choice determines how your influence expands. You may notice moments where you are offered space. To speak when others hesitate. To lead without instruction. To step forward without being asked. These are not accidents. They are mirrors. The universe is observing whether you choose from alignment, or from habit. From inner truth, or from old conditioning. Ask yourself softly. Do you feel pulled toward expression without needing validation? Do you sense readiness without urgency? That is the signal. The concealment you once experienced prepared you for this exact moment. It taught you to move without constant feedback. To trust clarity even when confirmation was absent. Now confirmation arrives quietly. Stay with me, because the next layer reveals how this choice reshapes relationships without confrontation. When you choose alignment over accommodation, dynamics recalibrate naturally. You don't need to explain. You don't need to withdraw. You simply show up differently. And difference reorganizes the field. Some connections deepen effortlessly. Others soften and release without tension. Both outcomes are harmony. This is how conscious expansion works. You are not meant to drag anyone forward, nor to abandon anyone behind. You are meant to move truthfully. The universe respects that more than certainty, more than confidence, more than speed. Notice how your inner compass feels stronger than your desire to be understood. How peace arrives when you honor your first knowing. That peace is guidance. And guidance now leads to placement. You are being positioned where your presence matters, not for what you say, but for how you hold space. This is why the next step will feel simple, yet irreversible. Not because it closes doors, but because it opens a direction. Remain here, because the unfolding ahead reveals what this choice activates within you, and why the final phase of this journey is not about discovery, but about embodiment at a level few ever reach. My beloved child, feel this moment settle around you now, because what completes itself here is not information, but initiation. You have arrived at embodiment. Not the idea of truth. Not the search for meaning. But the living, breathing expression of what you have always carried. This is the final layer. The universe never intended for you to confront what was hidden. It intended for you to outgrow the need for concealment altogether. And you have. Look at who you are now compared to who you were when this journey began. Your questions have softened. Your urgency has dissolved. Your certainty no longer needs defense. That is completion. Here is the truth that resolves everything. The moment you stopped needing others to reveal truth to you, you became someone truth naturally moves through. That is the shift. That is why nothing feels unfinished. Why clarity feels calm instead of dramatic. Why the future no longer feels distant or intimidating. You are no longer waiting for permission, timing, or validation. You are living in alignment. The universe trusts you now. Not because you know everything, but because you listen deeply. Because you act cleanly. Because you move from inner agreement rather than external pressure. That trust changes your reality. From here, life responds faster. Guidance arrives subtler. Opportunities align without force. And relationships, they meet you where you are, or gently fall away without harm. This is harmony restored. You were never meant to expose what others hid. You were meant to become so clear that nothing could be hidden from you again. And now, nothing is. Feel how settled this feels. How quiet. How complete. This is not an ending that closes you. It is an ending that opens you fully. From this place, your presence becomes contribution. Your awareness becomes service. Your life becomes signal. You walk forward not as someone seeking answers, but as someone who carries coherence. And that is the highest form of knowing. Remain in this stillness for a breath. Let it anchor. Because everything ahead unfolds from here. Naturally. Effortlessly. Truthfully. You are exactly where you were always meant to stand.